Hello and welcome to the 28th episode of Tailoring in Conversation. In this series, I'll be talking to tailors, business owners, cloth merchants, and other industry participants from all around the globe to gain a better insight into their worlds. My guest for today is Stephen Hitchcock. Stephen is a bespoke cutter and tailor based in London and has been so for the past 32 years. Some of you may know his father, John Hitchcock from Anderson and Sheppard. In our conversation today with Stephen, we're going to be talking about Stephen's background, his work, the drape cut, Savile Row, Rock of Eye method, and more. I hope you enjoy. Finally, Stephen Hitchcock, thank you very much for being here with me. How are you?
I'm very well. Do I have to press got it? Do I have to press this? It says leave meeting or got it. I'll press got it. Oh, is that working? Oh, it doesn't matter. It just covers up your... I can't see you now, but it doesn't matter. Well, I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, very well indeed. And working hard. I wonder if I can get rid of this thing off your face. No, it won't leave. No. I'm just looking at a text, not at your face anymore, but never mind. We're fine. Yeah, we're working hard and looking forward to going back to America in a couple of weeks to hopefully get some more orders and keep everything going.
You seem to travel quite a lot to America. How often do you travel to America per year?
Well, I travel 3 times every 4 months, so 3 times a year. So late January, May, and October.
Right, and do you have the majority? Sorry, please continue.
Sorry, yeah, I used to travel 4 times a year. Yeah, when I first started, well, I think yesterday was 20 years when I first went to America. So I used to go to New York City, and that was it. And I've done that for many, many years. But we used to go 4 times a year, just to quicken things up, have fittings. Like even now, this January trip is really a fitting trip. We're not, hopefully we take some orders, but it's really the stuff that we commissioned in November, all ready to be fitted. So why not go out there?
Right. And do you have the majority of your clientele based in America?
Yeah. We make 150 suits, or we did before the pandemic. 150 suits a year. 100 would be American, and 50 would be in UK.
I see. Well, that's a good balance there. Actually, I will ask you about the 150 suits a year. Before we kind of like get into the nuts and bolts, I wanted to ask you, knowing that you started very early, who were you at 10 years old?
Where was I at 10 years old?
Yeah. If we were friends and we were 10, what type of a friend were you at the time?
I have no idea. A 10-year-old, oh, blimey. I haven't got a memory like that. 10 years, when I was 10. I don't know how to answer that question. No idea.
Were you into sports? Because I know both your parents were tailors.
Yeah, both my parents were tailors. Yeah, I mean, they were both. They both worked at Anderson and Sheppard my dad worked at Anderson and Sheppard for 54 years, but my mother was there. My mum and dad met there in the early 1970s or late 60s, I suppose, late 60s. Yeah, I was born 1974. So but at 10 years old. I can't remember what I was doing yesterday, let alone when I was 10. So
Okay. Well, how did your journey start? I hope you still remember your apprenticeship days at least.
Oh yeah, no, I mean when I was younger, I wanted to be a mechanic, and so at school I did a college thing. So twice a week or twice a month we went to the college from school and learned how to learn about cars, induction, compression, power, exhaust, and then how to get the car engine, pistons and cylinders and things like that. But I got an apprenticeship on some youth scheme, and I was a mechanic, trainee mechanic for a couple of months, I think, and then my granddad said to me, why don't you go and work with your dad in a tailoring trade? I didn't really know what my dad did, I just knew every day he come home with a nice suit on, but I didn't really think anything of it. It was just normal. And then, so I asked my dad, and he said, I can get you an apprenticeship. If you want to do cutting, you must do an apprenticeship, how to make the suits first. Right. And that's what I did. So in September the 1st, 1990, I started at Sheppard and had a great time there. I think about 4 or 5 years apprentice coat making, and then the rest of it was cutting. So
how was your apprenticeship in coat making like? If you compare it to what you know about the coat making apprenticeships today, how would you compare it? How?
Yeah, it's different. It's different. I mean, in the old days, when I first started, the apprenticeship was about 5 years or 4 years. But really today, if I was to train someone, it would take about 3 years. Because, I mean, in the old days, it was all, they were training people and a lot. I mean, today, I don't know if there's anywhere near the amount that there were then. I mean, just on my boss, Pat, he was teaching 3 of us. And basically, the oldest one would teach the next one how to do the pockets, and Pat would just oversee it. So there was 3 of us in the same workshop, but they had a lot of space there. See, now they don't have the space to do this. But the idea was that if Pat took on another apprentice, basically, instead of doing 1 coat a week, he'd be able to do 2 or 3 coats a week. So you're helping them by them teaching you. You repay them because you've got very low money. But basically, you have to dedicate 2 years to them. But I didn't say that, but that's basically what you did. You did your pockets, your canvassing, your padding, and you did that for a long, long time. And the last year, basically, was the most important bit, was the collar, shoulder, and sleeves. I mean, anyone can make a base. It's the finishing of the garment, the shoulders. I mean, the canvassing is very important. Obviously, that is a foundation. But if you get a short collar or the sleeves haven't got the fullness, I mean, Pat showed me years ago, but I mean, I still do the sleeves the same. Right. And we put 3 inches of fullness into a sleeve. So, I mean, most tailors will say, you can't do that. And they want to put 2 inches in. But the only way I can see that is because they do a bigger armhole. So we do a high armhole, but wide. You've got to have width with back drape and front drape. But the armhole, for example, might be 19 inches. So you add on 3 inches. So what's that? 20, 19, 21, 22. But if the armhole was a big armhole from another company and it was already 23, and you add on 2 inches, so you can get rid of more fullness around a big armhole, can't you? But with a small armhole or a high armhole, you've got to have a big sleeve. If you had an armhole that fitted the sleeve, if you had a very small armhole, a very small sleeve, it'd be tight. I mean, it's just common sense. But so you have to have 3 inches of fullness. And where you put that fullness is very important, because you want the sleeve to hang, dead straight down. You don't want the sleeve to start flying out like this. Or, there's all sorts of, the coat makers there, even within Sheppard at that time when I was there, 3 or 4 different, 3 or 4 very good coat makers, and then make completely differently. They would put a suit together. It'd be called an Sheppard suit, but it'd be made, it's individual, even today, that's what I do now. I just try and keep it to 150, because I can do all the cutting, and I can, I just have 4 coat makers. So, I mean, it's always the same outcome. There's no, I'm not trying to make 20 a week where, you might be able to make 5 good ones and 15 are just average. We're not making anything like that. We're just doing, if I can't make them to the best of, the best, I won't make them. I don't want to, stand in front of a client in America and the sleeves are coming out like this, or there's a great, the collars are pulling up, and you look and you think, if there's a mistake with my work, it's my fault. It's not the coat makers, because the coat makers are the best. I find them, there's nothing wrong with the coat makers I've got. They're the best.
Yeah, that's a great thing to hear. It's the worst thing you could hear is that when something goes wrong, I mean, sometimes it's someone's fault or responsibility, but it's very encouraging to hear that you say, look, if something around, this operation goes wrong, it's me who's responsible for this. And I think that reflects in your work as well. Because like you say, it always looks very consistent and neat, and you can tell someone is paying attention. Now, Stephen, one thing I wanted to ask you is, how much of the knowledge that you have gained throughout the years, including the apprenticeship you did in the beginning, have you taken on board and incorporated in your cutting?
Yeah, but all of it, all the years, 32 years or 33 years, I'd done 9 years at Anson Sheppard. Then I went to James and James. Then, I had started my own business in 1999. So I took a sit-in. Nowadays you can't get a sit-in. All these billionaires, aren't they? The owners of, companies. So you go in there and say, I'll give you 30 grand for a board in the, in the little space in the shop. They don't want that. They want you to work there. So, but in the old days, when I first started, I went to Eric James and he took me money. And then I went to Demon and Goddard. Then I went from Old Burlington Street, New Burlington Street to Savile Row, 13. Then I went to St George's Street. Then I went to Chiltern Street. But all these places that I went to, I would pick their brains. Even today, I still ask anyone, coat maker, coat cutter, anyone that's in the business. I just love talking about tailoring because you can learn, just a little bit. If you learn just a little different thing, it really clicks on 4 or 5 other things would come about because, just changing one thing, it really would affect the whole process. So, so all the knowledge that I built up, basically when I left Anson Sheppard, I've been adapting this soft tailoring drape cut. And we're trying to get the same look, but we want a clean coat. It's like the old Kilgour, really. One of our coat makers, he's 70 odd, and he was an apprentice at Kilgour in the 60s. So his knowledge as well for the canvassing. It's a drape cut. They did a drape cut. Anson's do a drape cut. But they're two different things. They're not always equal. Everyone just thinks, they do a drape cut. It must be the same. It's nothing like it. It's two different chalk and cheese. So I do a drape cut, but I don't think it's anything like Anson Sheppard. And I don't think it's like anyone else that's saying they do a drape cut. It's everything. We do a controlled drape. That's why, if you're a tailor, because the thing is, I'm one of the only people with a business that can actually make a coat. Or I was trained. If I made a coat now, it would be that good. But I know how to put it all together, and I know how I want my skills to go in, and that's what we bang on about. If I get, hopefully I'm going to get another coat maker this year, and just ask them, what 3 inches of fullness, and they would say no, can't do that, and you say, well, I want to put it through here, and that's how, and it would just tease them in, and if it works, I know it works because that's what we do. So we've just adapted it over the years.
How would you say? I think the drape cut thing you mentioned, and that every drape cut is not the same, is a very good thing to talk about. So if someone ignorant, let's say, about drape cut, like me, would say, Stephen, what's the difference between Anderson and Sheppard drape cut, Kilgour drape cut, and Stephen Hitchcock drape cut? What should I be looking for? Like, how would you describe that, and how would you talk someone through that?
Well, I think, Anson Sheppard, I don't know, what they're making at the moment, but when I was there, the coat was a flat coat. So the canvas, basically, Kilgour, I'm trying to be like Kilgour, basically, in the 60s. That's what I'm trying to achieve now. Right. Most people won't even remember Kilgour, French and Stanbury as I do. And so basically, an Anson Sheppard coat is a flat coat. So they would put, and I can still make that. I have a couple of clients that wish for that. And you just put a fish cut, an open-ended fish cut, Right. But if you want a proper coat, one of my coats, they build up a chest. You need a chest here. So the bridle will stay flat against your chest. You don't want this flat because it all sort of pops off and the fronts can all turn back. But what we do, we put a cut in the canvas, or any cut you put in the cloth, as you will know, you put in the canvas. Yeah. And I have a more controlled drape. So my I normally would cut a side body. Even if I don't cut a side body, the canvases are still cut in the same way. So I would still take a cut out the front of the canvas, and that would be pulled in, and that would then throw the chest down. Obviously, if the man's got no chest, you wouldn't do it so much. But most people like a high chest. They want to look like they've got a nice high chest that comes into the waist. I haven't got a waist, but this jacket will make me look like I've got a waist because the chest is wider than the waist. So it's an appeal. It just makes it all look, nice. I love the look of it. I love the shoulder line. We do a very soft, natural shoulder line. So it looks like the client. It doesn't look like a clone. It doesn't look exactly the same as everyone else. We want people to walk into a meeting and look like them. And we want them to feel comfortable. And when you've got a small shoulder pad that we make up out of wadding, with the 3 inches of fullness in the sleeve and the drape front and back, it is extremely comfortable. It's very lightweight because the canvas is, it's just a piece of, we use the Italian canvas, the red, white and blue, I think it is. And we put horsehair and the Met covers it, and we do very long stitches. We want short stitches. We're not trying to build up the chest. We're trying to shape the chest, but then really we're just holding the haircloth in place. We just want the haircloth. And sometimes if we cut, at Anthony Sheppard 30 years ago, we used to cut the canvases 7 inches on the bias. So we used to pull the lapel, should we say, or lay the front edge down on the canvas straight, and then you move the chest piece back. So you measure from the lapel to the front 7 inches. Right. So that would go straight through so that would collapse basically, Yeah. We can still do that, but for me to sell that, when I was on my own, it's very difficult to sell that to an American that has never seen. A lot of my clients know nothing about Anthony Sheppard. They're not. They don't. Some of them come from Anthony Sheppard, some of them don't. So if you gave them a coat that's all creased up through the fronts, and they've got some coats. But sometimes the drape, they say it's drape, but the coat's just too wide, the chest's too big. Right. I've seen it many times on clients and on mannequins and things like that. You just think, well, the armhole's in the wrong place. They haven't taken into consideration that it's when you make a drape coat, the coat comes back. It can't go up on the neck. So you straight, it's going to go back. And when it goes back, it's going to push into the armhole. So you clear the armhole so you don't get, you don't get wrinkles here. We don't want wrinkles down the chest here. You want drape there. Anything else, if it's all wrinkly here, that's bad tailoring. That's not drape. That's a mess. So,
I'm really happy that you say that, because I tend to think sometimes when I look at some photos and some of the jackets that people make by hand, as they say, I do see, like you say, a lot of messiness, and I'm thinking, why are they calling it drape, and why are they devaluing the term drape? Because the term drape is not, like you say, an excuse to create a mess. So I can imagine you, as someone who does incorporate a lot of drape in his cutting, to look at that and be like, oh man, what are you guys doing? So
but it annoys me because I as I said to you earlier, I cut a suit out every day. I'm not a pretender. I'm actually a tailor. I can cut, I can make, and every day of my life in the 30 odd years, or 22 years on my own, I cut a suit out, and I really enjoy it. But as I say, I'm looking at the armhole. What was it? Where is it? Is it too far forward? Is it too far back? Is it too deep? All these things, and there's a lot of points that you've got to get right. But I see other people that they say, oh, it's a drape. They just copy the same words, but it's nothing like what I do, and nothing like. It's wrong. If you've got creases that are coming through here, it's sometimes when it's too. If you make a very crooked coat, you can get a crease, through here. Again, when the canvas is cut on 7 inches on the bias, that would really show up, But today I don't cut 7 inches on the bias. I might do 2 or 3 inches. So I want the coat just to settle down a little bit after the man's when he's wearing the coat, his body heat, things he puts in his pockets will just weigh that down, and it will just drop a little bit. But I mean, as I say, years ago, it used to drop a lot. It used to come down, come off the hips, and it beautiful. It was a good look. It was a good look, but it has to be done well. You can't hardly do it. It has to be perfect. The coat maker and the cutter, well, they're the two most important things in a suit. So you've got to have both firing all cylinders, and you'll have a good suit. But if you're not aligned with it, if the cutter's cutting something out and you're hoping that the tailor's going to put the style into it and recut the sleeves maybe, or recut bits and bobs. I mean, when I was with Patrick years ago, 30 years ago, he used to recut the top sleeve because he used to. I mean, what I do now, it's you measure around the armhole. I had 1.5 inches on for the top sleeve, so I measure around the top sleeve, and it's got to be 1.5 inches bigger. And the shape now that we've got, well, it's exactly the same ones from Kilgore, because John, one of my coat makers, he's got a couple of block sort of shapes. So you've got the front side, you've got the front of the sleeve, and he's adapted that himself again over, 50 years or whatever, 50, 60 years. So, but that started off at Kilgore. So it's the same drape, it's the same front side, because there's angles. These angles have got to go together. You can't have a sleeve. It's got to be sewn into the armour. It's got to be the right angle. So the main thing is with I cut a straight coat. I've got to cut a straight sleeve. I can't cut a straight coat and then cut a very crooked sleeve. It won't go in. And a lot of these, I've seen so many things over the time, but that's what they do sometimes. They put a sleeve in that isn't going to fit. So the tailor, the coat maker, obviously has to redo it. I remember Patrick used to redo every single one of the Mr. Harvey's, and they used to pick up the back and just cut off maybe 1/2 inch. That's an inch on the double,
I see. So, Stephen, how was it like when you started at Anderson and Sheppard, and your dad was working there, and he was very well respected there? And I read in your bio that when he was being brought to the cutting room, he was told that, we're only going to teach you cutting if you promise to stay at Anderson and Sheppard forever. Now, when you joined Anderson and Sheppard as a young tailor, did you feel that same pressure? And did you feel like you have to kind of like follow those footsteps and remain there forever?
Well, not really. As I say, I didn't know my dad was a director. I didn't know he had shares in the business. I didn't know any of this. I just thought he was a tailor. And even when I first started there, I went there just for a day to see if I liked it. I was with Michael Arthur, who's still there now, trouser maker. I did a day with him, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, my dad would give him a pair of trousers, and we basically, by the end of the day, he'd done the baste, and I thought, well, we can see what we've made. I thought that was, really enjoyed that. So I thought we'd give it a go, and I went coat making. But I had no idea for about 2 or 3 months that, my dad was the director of the company. It was just one of those things. And so I had no pressure on me at all. I mean, I just wanted to learn to make, I was learning to drive. I was learning so many different things, but I wanted to, learn to make a coat. And as I say, that's what we did. And what was the other part of the question? So,
whether you felt that pressure to remain there forever once you were being taught.
I didn't think I'd ever leave. I thought that things would. I didn't think I'd leave, but the thing was, there was a lot of people that did leave in '92, and there was a little bit of unrest, and then I just thought to myself, I just like doing my own thing. I like adapting. With Anderson Sheppard or most old firms, they need to cut in the same way they did 100 years ago. Right. But, I don't want to do that. I want to have the same silhouette, but because the cloth's got a lot lighter, I mean, in the old days, the cloth, 30 ounce, 20 ounce, 13 was the lightweight. Now, 13 is the heavyweight. So we need to change.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done. I've adapted it to the side body and cuts, take the body cut out. All these little things make a massive difference. It makes the coat a lot cleaner. That's what I wanted to do. I want to do my own thing. I want to make my own decisions. I didn't want to be told. You had people there to write out the tickets, like the work tickets. So you had to wait for them to do the tickets, but the customer wants his suit. So I'm thinking, come on, hurry up.
Yeah.
And, so I just thought I could just do this myself, because if you work for yourself, if you do 2 a week, you've got business,
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I thought I'll just start on my own, and it's been brilliant.
When did you feel that you were ready? What sort of skills had you accumulated that you thought this is going to be?
I don't know if I'm still ready now. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I didn't, and I never felt that I knew everything, and I still don't now. So when I left, I didn't even know how to cut a pair of trousers. I didn't know how to cut a pair of trousers. I knew the coat, and I just learned wherever I needed. I knew what I wanted to. I wanted my own business. I wanted to work for myself, and so you've got to work out what you don't know. You've got to learn.
Yeah,
and that's that. So that's what I did. I just went out and just started asking questions, and obviously my father was a trouser cutter, and he ended up as a coat cutter, but he was trouser cutting for, I don't know, 30 years. So he could show me how to cut a pair of trousers. He did show me a little bit, while I was at Sheppard, but my trouser cutting now is different. I don't cut. They cut he did cut a very crooked trouser. I still cut a crooked trouser, but they used to do a bigger fork, and I'd do a left fork, and I'd pass it onto the top of the seat seam, and I sort of bring it back a bit. I bring it back an inch instead of half inch. Everything, so it's a bit neater. Yeah, not slim, but it's just the way that I've got more confidence in this cut. Yeah,
so please continue. Sorry.
No. I was going to say that if you keep chopping and changing, you might, you're never going to really get to the end result. But if you stick with the same process and you keep getting, the fork's too big, we'll take the fork in. Okay, now I can clear the seat, and then that brings that smaller, and it sort of works itself out after a lot of years. You realise, we don't need all that there. We can clear that, and but I still want a crooked pair of trousers so that you can move. I want people to be able to sit down and walk, up the curb and without pulling. But some people, they do like a very straight leg. They don't want any break in the trousers at the back. And I could do that, just straighten the trousers, pick them up, but you won't be able to sit down. It'll be very uncomfortable. But some people are very vain, and they just want something that looks absolutely spot on.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, it seems like when you give the time to repeat something, you allow time to perfect it over time. So you seem like a fairly adaptable person, like you say. You go with the times, and you like to kind of like make your own decisions. When you are going throughout the years and you're cutting and you're making and your style improves, changes, or alters, what are the factors that help you to make style changes to your cut or to the way you just look at that garment specifically?
Well, style changes. There are no style changes. I want a drape cut, high armhole. The aesthetics are exactly the same. You've got to put a big sleeve in the high armhole, small armhole, soft shoulder. It's exactly that look I'm after every time.
Right.
But because I've changed a bit, I like more shape through the waist. So I want that close, very close, so you can see through your arm. But if you move it gives you that slimmer appearance that everyone's after. No one wants to look big. But on the front edge, I have that a little bit loose. So when you sit down, some people, might not undo their coat. They should do maybe, but you don't have to. And so it's the same appearance. But the actual tailoring, the canvassing that we do now, we take a couple of cuts out, we get that a little bit more drape. All this has been refined, talking to coat makers and lots of different people. I just take on all the information. And if I can make my suit better, I want to. Every day I want to make it better and better and better. And I enjoy that. looking for them, looking for these little bits of the jigsaw to get to the perfect jacket.
Yeah, the process of perfection naturally evolves.
Yeah, well, it is natural. Yeah, I mean, it's just picking people's brains that have done it before.
Yeah,
they might not have done this style before, but if I talk to Malcolm Hughes or any of the old tailors that are anyone that's got their own business and is doing it, they're full of knowledge and full of they want to help. So that's the best way. Just pick their brains and put it into your own cut. But still don't lose what you want to do. I mean, I want that soft cut. If I wanted to do a different cut, I would have done that. But I don't. I think this is for me, it's the ultimate. I think it's brilliant. I think it's comfortable. It's unique. It's personal to the client. It doesn't look like someone else. They all look, unique. So it's if I can just make it a little bit better, it makes it fun for me. Every time I cut a pattern, I find it so enjoyable. There's so many things I look at. I just measure everything. If they're a big man, small man, doesn't matter. We can do it.
As someone who is cutting pretty much every day for 25 years, 30 years, like you say, what does it mean for you to be a tailor? What does that? How would you position the craftsman, the artisan, being a tailor, in your hierarchy of values? How would you say that?
Oh yeah. Well, being a tailor is the top. I mean, for me, I love it. I mean, I can't, read and write properly or whatever, but I love tailoring. It's a way of expressing yourself. And, I don't read any books. I'm not interested in certain things, but with tailoring, it's an addiction. I love it. And I'm trying to perfect that. I mean, you're never going to get perfection, but every day, I've got a client coming in this afternoon, new one, and I just want to, you can't wait to speak to them because you want to see, what they want and what, they love tailoring. They want to talk about tailoring and tell me their experiences, and it's just a lovely life, isn't it? If you can, but I don't want to do 20 a week. I want to do 3 a week, and that's, I think, the big key because, if I flew to Australia, if I went all around America, States, I can get more work. I don't want to do more work because that means then my lifestyle would be different, and I need to train up, more tailors. And if I was to train up more tailors, I need a shop or a workshop, and all these prices, everything builds up, and it becomes you're working to pay the rent then, and I don't want that. I want it to be a joy. So by doing 150, I can actually cut those myself. See, if I was doing 250, there's no way I could cut all those, cut them patterns, fit those suits. It becomes different. And, I just like the way that it's working out at the moment. I've never done this for the money. I do this because I enjoy it, and it's a lovely way of life.
Yeah, and if you were doing it for the money, you probably would be making 550 suits a year.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you could... Yeah, I mean, this is not bespoke. You never make any money. I'm sure some of the big people that have bought these big companies, they find out very quickly that there's no money in bespoke. You can sell, if you can sell a load of suits throughout the world, and it's made in a factory, for 38 quid, and you're selling them for £1,500, that's where you make the money. When you make bespoke, everyone that touches that is putting their life and soul into the suit. I mean, everything is expensive. It's not because it's handmade, and people dedicate their lives to tailoring, so they should get paid. I mean, when I first started, there were some lovely tailors at Sheppard that really didn't have a pot of piss in. They were poor, and it's a shame. And the finishers were treated a bit mean. But now, everyone it's so important to have a team around you that is willing to work and all help out together, and they've all got to be the best. You can't have someone that's good. That's not good enough. You've got to be the best.
Yeah, yeah. Do you see in that same framework also the tailor as the artisan in business being very different than a business, if that makes sense?
Say that again.
So if I let me see if I can describe it. So do you see yourself as an artisan or do you see yourself as a business?
I don't really see myself as an artisan. I think that's a bit of a weird word. But I'm not a businessman. I'm definitely not a businessman. But I
Right.
just want to be, I'm more of a craft. I've learnt my craft.
Yeah.
Um, but, it's not just me. It's my small team.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they're all making good stuff. I mean, I always look at it as I haven't got a backer or anything like that. So I don't mind paying the
Mm-hmm.
coat makers a bit more, uh, you know, money
Mm-hmm.
or if I see an alteration, I'll do the alteration on the suit. I'm not going to let a suit go out the door that could come back and bite you. One of these
Mm-hmm.
clients might have 5 friends that he recommends, and if one's not happy, then he tell his friends money. So you've got to make everything. You've got to have a clean conscience after
Mm-hmm.
getting rid of the suit. It's got to be perfect. Always, in my eyes, sometimes a client might say, "Oh, I think this
Yeah.
should be like this or like that," and you say, "Okay, we do it," but then don't bring it back because I've done it. I've done it the way that if you want it like this,
Mm-hmm.
it's not the way that I see it. So,
Mm-hmm.
but most of our customers they just return time after time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I see. I see. And if you think about the name Savile Row, especially in the recent years, like maybe last 10 years, it has had a lot of attention, especially with social media and YouTube and all of that. And there have been a lot of spin-offs from companies, bigger companies as well. What do you see as a true Savile Row tailor? Who would you
There's
categorize as a?
Yeah, the proper Savile Row tailor is there's hardly any of them left. It's become a carnaby street for me anyway. I don't think it's a bit
Mhm.
heartbreaking when you walk down there and you just see the empty shops. I think
Mm,
obviously, it's bloody obvious, really, isn't it? It's the pinnacle of a suit, so it's the best fit, the best cut, the best tailoring.
mm,
It's always been the same. But if you go down there now, you see a lot of suits that have been made in
mhm,
factories, Wenton or whatever, and they're in the front window. They're showing it off like, oh, we sell this. It's rubbish. It's nothing to do with Savile
mhm,
Row. Savile Row is about people. It's about people learning and dedicating
mhm,
their time to learn and make themselves better. It's not about
mhm,
profit on a suit.
mhm,
That's a business, isn't it? But now it's quite frustrating.
mm,
Uh, my father was in the trade for 54 years. I'm in the trade for 32 years. And there's a lot of people that have been the same, but now there's a
mhm.
lot of people that are coming in and living off the back of people that have put the effort in and worked to build up Savile Row.
Right.
I think Savile Row really, if you go to any firm, if you go, it's all about the tailor and the cutter. You've got to have a good cutter and you've got to have a good
Mhm,
tailor. If you haven't got those two, you're just
mhm,
buying a suit. And some people they might go to Savile Row and not pay £4,000, £5,000 for a suit. They might say you see something for like £1,200. Well, that's not a Savile Row suit. They might have a
mhm.
location of
Yeah.
Savile Row, but you're buying something, and you buy cheap, you buy twice, don't you? You buy that suit and you
Mm,
wear it, and you think, oh, this is rubbish. I won't go back to
mm,
Savile Row. But that's not Savile Row. That's again, not all tailors are equal.
mhm,
We've got people are out there basically conning you, aren't they? They're conning you into buying a suit because they've got a
mm.
location. They haven't done. If they're not a cutter or a tailor, they're not in the tailoring business. Surely, they're just
Mhm.
business people. So
Yeah.
you've got to do your research and find what style you like. There's loads of styles out there, and I say there's a dozen proper tailors out there that are, you could go to and have a very nice suit, but there's another dozen that know nothing about the tailoring world. It's a
Mhm.
business. So you've got to be
What do
careful.
you think that a let's say a heritage brand like Savile Row, um, which has had a big history behind it with great people who had great skill. What do you think a place like Savile Row now needs the most? Like, what could save Savile Row? What could
Oh,
save
I don't.
Savile Row?
Well, I think they got to save themselves. I think yeah, you just got to teach more people. But the thing is, the whole thing isn't the same anymore. People are in the business of Savile Row to make money, and they're just going to rip it to pieces. You know, they're just going to rip it to pieces, because if you're a business person, you don't want to go in and buy a company that's not making any money. They're not interested in that. They want to make money, and the way to make money is out of these cheaper suits, selling them for a higher price. But if you're making something, as you well know, if you take a long time to make something, it costs a lot of money. So you might say, oh, it's £5,000, but there's hardly any profit in it. You know, you might, but in the suit that is £1,000, you're getting a lot more profit if you're making it for 50 quid. Yeah, I think now, you know, I don't know. You just need to teach people, but everyone, they don't seem to stick together. The Savile Row tailors, they seem to want to kick everyone down. Everyone, they don't want to drop the drawbridge and let people come up and join us. They want to say, oh, we own this club and you're not coming in. Well, that's not helping anyone, is it? Well, we should all get together and maybe get a workshop together where we can train people to make, you know, what we want. And maybe we can get help, maybe from the government. I don't know. I don't get any help at all from anyone. And I'm not asking for help. I just, you know, that's the way we do it. We just get on with it. But I think you need a bit of passion, and you need to push. I know there's so many people. I get emails and text messages most weeks asking, you know, have you got any space? Can I learn? Can I do this? So the people definitely want to learn, but I don't think we're teaching properly. I don't think that I think it's being diluted now. I think it's not.
Do you have apprentices yourself?
I don't have an apprentice now. No, we've trained up. Well, no, but John's trained up his daughter Roxy, so she works for me. Obviously, I give her loads of work while she was going through her apprenticeship. But we might take on someone this year. We might do. It all depends on how the trips go. Because the first trip we had was fantastic. So if it carries on like that, then we will have enough money, because, you know, to take on an apprentice, you've got to get a workshop. You've got to make sure that this person's, you know, going to work for you for a long time. You're no good training them up for 3 years and then they say, I'm going to start my own business in India or wherever, you know, China or wherever, they sort of disappear. We want someone to last, you know, for the next 20 years. Yeah. So, but it's just getting, I need to have constant work to do that. You know, I get constant work now, but two, 3 a week is not quite enough for me to go for another coat maker. You know, if I can get, if America's good, and I think it could be good this year, then we will take on someone. But it's a big responsibility, you know, taking on someone and training them. But I'd like to do that. I would love to do that. I'd love to do it on a big scale. You know, if I had the money, I'd have a big workshop, take on 10 people, and get an experienced coat maker in there to show them the ropes. And as I say, you can get them through in 3 years if you just want them to, you know, if you don't want them to be doing base for, you know, for the coat maker that's teaching. If you just show them how to make a suit and they haven't got paid back that responsibility, then you can get them through in 3 years, you know, a couple of years, and on the finishing, shoulders, collars, sleeves. And, well, Roxy's one of our coat makers, Roxy, she's went through that apprenticeship, I don't know, about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I can't really remember. But she's fantastic. She makes some really good stuff. So you haven't got to be in your 70s to make a good coat. It's what people are telling you. If you take it on and you really want to be good, and you think, well, that sleeve hasn't gone in. Why is that sleeve not gone in? And you know, you tell them, and they go, no, it's not that. And then, yes, it is that. And then, no, that. And then all of a sudden, the penny drops, and they think, right, I just do that. Let that drop. Put a bit more fullness there. Oh, it's looking better. And then it just helping them. You've got to, you know, I feel that if I had an apprentice, I would be able to help them because they can make a coat. But if you can't make a coat to begin with, and you take on apprentices and you give them a coat maker, they're just going to make the coat that he tells them. So everyone goes off on their own thing. But you want to channel it to the same house style. I mean, that's what I do anyway. Some people say, we make anything. But we just stick to the same thing and try and master that. and that's what we do.
Yeah, it's a very important point that you bring up, because when you have too many tailors within the same company and everyone is doing something different, even if it's good, it's still impossible to really perfect one thing to the absolute best and really bring it to the next level. Stephen, I have another question. When you started your own business and you were kind of like making your plans and kind of like getting to know the fields, what were some of your main challenges, some of the biggest challenges that you found personally really difficult to deal with at the time?
Well, when I first started, well, I think it's always been the same. It's always been somewhere to work from. I don't think, I think it's always been rent being too high and people just moving out. You know, James and James was sold around Bennett and then they knocked it down. I had to move out, then they moved out. So you just keep moving from pillar to post. That's always been the difficult bit, is not having a base. But, you know, I don't know really. The rest of it, I mean, we've never really, because I'm not backed, because I haven't got a backer, and he says you've got to do 3 a week, you've got to do 5 a week, or whatever they say. It's never really bothered me, because at first I was doing 1 a week. I was making it myself. So not the trouser, but the jacket, I was making it myself. And that's the first year we'd done 52 orders. So I've never put any pressure on myself like that. I've never, if I had a backer or someone give me the money, and I had lots of people offer me that at the time, I would have had a lot of pressure on me. And I don't like all that. So I'm not going to put myself under that pressure or into that commitment. So really it's only been, I would say, the location, really. That's the rent, the pay, finding the premises, because every couple of years, wherever you go, as I said, one got knocked down and the next one, a lot of redevelopment around Savile Row in that sort of time. So, but cutting wise and getting the clients have never been a problem. They just seem to come along. I mean, now with the Instagram and, you know, these sort of Zoom calls, people can see what you're doing. You know, before it's all hidden away, but now people can see, and if they like what they see, they come and order. If they don't like it, they don't have to, you know, but you're showing it throughout the world, aren't you? So it's a good platform.
Do you think that if you established your business on day one and never had to move ever, that your business would look very different?
I think it'd be stronger, yeah. If I could have got in somewhere, well, say James and James, and you could afford to take over a bit of the basement, you could train tailors, and then if I could get more coat makers to the standard that I need, I would have gone and got more work. But you couldn't. I couldn't build like that because I haven't got the backing. But saying that, I don't. You know, I'm happy with what I've got. Very happy. You know, but if I had a shop and a workshop, my God, it would have gone. I would have really gone. I would have taken on the big shops. We would have been better than them. We would have been doing more work than all them. But it is what it is, and you do what you do. And I'm very grateful to do 2 or 3 a week.
And if you ever do get any type of difficulty within the work, and it's, you know, things happen, sometimes it's part of the work, right? Something is forgotten maybe here, or something goes wrong there, an accident happens here. What sort of a decision-making system do you have for yourself to deal with things that go wrong unexpectedly? How do you process those problems?
I don't know. I mean, you know,
what sort of an approach do you take?
I don't usually get problems. It sounds a bit big-headed, but on a normal suit, on a lounge suit, I don't really get any problems. But if it was a morning suit, I don't cut many morning suits, white ties, anything like that. I would just go straight to Malcolm Hughes, one of my friends who's been in the trade for years and years and years, and I say, I've got to do this, and they say, I'll show you. And that's it, easy.
Right.
So if I don't know, I would never take it on. If I don't know what I'm doing, I'll go and find out. There's people in the trade that do know. So you go and ask them.
You would rather prevent the problem, basically.
Yeah, I don't want problems. I don't want to do things twice. If I have to do things twice, I think about, let's not bother with this next time, because this ain't working. If I've done it once and it ain't right, you think, Christ, I don't want to be doing this. As I say, when I go to America and I stand in front of a client in Los Angeles or New York, I don't want alterations. I don't want any trouble with the collars not fitting or the shoulders. There's no fullness, sleeves and tight, because you've got to come back and give it to someone. It's all hassle. I want it to be right. And to get it right is experience on my level and on the tailor's level, coat maker. Now, I know my coat makers, they ain't going to put a short collar on or the sleeves in badly. Now and again, there might be a small thing, like the in-breast pocket might be 1/2 inch small, to my knowledge. I like them 7.5. Just little things. And if it comes up a bit small, I just say, look, it's nothing. But it's just, I don't want them 6.5. I want them at least 7. Just little things. There's the actual tailor inside, the actual canvassing. That's made very important. Collar, shoulder, sleeves, very important. We don't get any trouble with those. It's never, if it's the fault, it's my fault, because I've measured, put it wrong. If the man's really big and you need to get over the belly and, underneath the belly, it's the way I cut it. It's a 50-50 thing for me and the coat maker. So, you might have another fitting on a big fella. But that's about it. We don't get any, I've never had any, last 10 years, I've never had any trouble with the fittings. I mean, it's what it is. I mean, some people don't like the drape cut. Some people love the drape cut. And if they love it, they keep coming back. If they don't like it, they have one suit and think, oh, no, that's not for me. So we don't get many of those. But,
I think that's a good quality. I think that's a sign of efficiency and knowing exactly what you want and what you would take on board, just to prevent anything unknown from happening.
Yeah, but if I had something that wasn't right, I would, I'd put it right. So if there's something that I knew was wrong on a coat, I might not say to the client, oh, by the way, that size seam needs stretching out a bit. I'll say to them, can I have it for a press? I'm going to give this a press. Can you pick it up on Tuesday? And then I'll say, right, take out the thing, stretch the size seam. It's a bit tight. The lining might have shrunk when the guy's pressed it or something. If it's a little bit tight, then I want it right. I don't want him to take it away. I say, most of them aren't from London, so they could be from Russia, they could be from America. If they go back to where they're from, and it's miles away, and they put up and say, oh, there's a crease there. And you think, oh, my God. It's a hassle, isn't it? These people, most of them are billionaires. They're very rich people, and they want service. They don't want to know about it was a tight lining or it's They just want to wear it. They want to put it on, and if they can't put it on for their party or their ball they're going to, then they're disappointed and they're so upset they'll probably never come back because of little diddy things. They're not looking at the drape. They're not looking at it as I would look at it or you would look at it and try and get every time perfection. But you don't hit perfection really, but you try your best to get every level of the suit and the best you possibly can. So
All right. So let's do a speed round, Stephen. I've got a few words, and I'd like to know the first thing that pops up your mind when you hear them.
Right.
All right. Shall we begin?
Okay. Yeah, go on.
All right. Quality.
Fit.
Okay. Apprenticeships.
3 years.
Tailoring schools.
Oh, no, not for me. Tailoring school, no good. You got to have an apprenticeship.
All right. Ready to wear.
Well, it's got a lot better over the last 30 years.
Garment technicians.
What was that?
Garment technicians.
I don't even know what that means. What does that mean?
You know, when in a factory they decide to make a particular garment and they work out all the ins and outs with the machines and how it should kind of like be assembled and all of that.
Right. No idea. I've never been in a factory.
Savile Row.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. Anderson and Sheppard.
Brilliant.
Tradition.
100%.
100%. Innovation.
100%.
Encouragement.
100%.
Role model.
Well, my father, John Hitchcock.
Right. Pattern cutting.
Rock of Eye.
Rock of Eye. Actually, how do you define Rock of Eye? I can't believe I didn't. I didn't think of this earlier.
Well, the way I cut is Rock of Eye. So basically, if I see a customer, I look at their physique. So I look at the shape of their back, if they've got a belly, and I just draw what I see. So if they've got a belly, I might bring the front edge forward half an inch. I might open up, I might put a wedge through the front. So whatever I see, I do. So Rock of Eye, it's just me, striking what I see. So the back seam will be exactly the same as the man's back seam. Some tailors, I don't really study it too much, but a lot of tailors used to do, or I suppose they still do, more scientific. I don't think it's scientific at all, tailoring. I think it is all by eye. And when you draw something, you can just see how it flows. But a lot of these, years ago, I remember there was some of these tailors that would do dot-to-dot cutting, I would call it. So they'd put a dot there and they would, tenth of the scale, they put another dot, and then they line it up, very straight edges. And that's exactly the opposite to what we do, or I do. I just don't want any of that. I mean, I start off with a block back and a block sleeve, and I can grade that up. But it's all about measurements. But the forepart is just a piece of chalk. I mean, it's 2/3 of the back. The balance is, I get these points that I go to, and then it's all about what I see. If the customer, as I say, if he's got a big belly and a small back, you don't want a 40 waist all around the back there. You want it at the front. So I just add it on at the front. I mean, it's very basic, very simple to me. It's just the way that I do and I've done for all that time.
Do you think that the Rock of Eye method is something you kind of like evolve as a craftsman towards, or is that something you train in from the very beginning?
Well, I suppose you can do either, I suppose. But I trained from the very beginning because when I was at Anderson Sheppard, I used to go down and get the patterns out. That was one of my jobs, get the patterns out. But, they had patterns down there from 50 years ago, or maybe more, maybe 100 years, I don't know. But, I mean, obviously after 10 years, they get rid of these. If a person pattern, after 10 years, they've changed shape anyway, haven't they? So they would get rid of them. But I think some of the patterns they had down there were from years and years ago. But at Anderson Sheppard, when I was there, I used to look up to Mr. Harvey, Mr. Horbury, Mr. Russell. So I used to get their patterns out and look at them. So Harvey used to do a bit more crooked coat, or very crooked coat, but he had a lot of style. And all the patterns were slightly different, but all cut Rock of Eye. So there's none of this dot-to-dot stuff. You wouldn't say the chest is there. But nowadays, I don't do dot-to-dot cutting, but I do have marks that I would go to.
Right.
Quarter the chest for the armhole. These little things that I know I'm going to be closer at the end. Because if you just do it, basically, when in the late 80s or before at Anderson Sheppard, it was all the cutters would cut something but leave it to the tailor. They would just mark an outburst pocket, or when it wouldn't even be in the right place. They just chalk. There'd just be a bit of chalk, and the fish cuts. They used to do these lovely little lines, but each tailor would do it differently. So the first cut could be an eighth, the second cut could be 3/8. Some people would do 1/4 of an inch. Some people would sew a button on an inch back. Some would sew it on 3/4 back. It'd all be different. So that's what I'm saying. I don't have any of that nonsense. I just do everything's exactly the same. We sew a button on 3/4 of an inch. I mean, it's just basic stuff. But if you just stick to it, we know where we all are. I mean, it's consistency is what we're after. But to go back to the Rock of Eye, I just find it a lot easier to cut than I don't want to trust a stick that says it's going to be 10/8. Got to add on an inch here, add on all that. It still doesn't fit at the end of it. So you've got to get. If I look at a client and I look at a sleeve, and I think, well, the measurements don't really measure up. I want to get a nice run because the run, if you put a sleeve in, as I say, if you've got this, if I make a straight coat and it pushes back, this is going to be straighter. This line here on a coat. Now, if I put in a crooked sleeve like this, it's never going to go in. So you've got to cut a straight sleeve with a straight arm on. It sounds really basic, but if you do all the basics correctly, you'll have a half a chance of the coat hanging correctly. If you're putting a back seam in with a load of angle and then you've got the 4-part seam that's no angle, when you turn it back, you can't stretch it that much. It's all going to be tight. It's never going to hang nicely. So a lot of my cutting over that, over my 20 years or whatever on my own, I try and get the side seams and the back seams to marry up. I try and get all the seams. So it's a lot easier for the coat maker to put something together. Right. That's what I work with them more than trying to get something. I don't know. If I cut more shape into it, it just doesn't work. It has to be measured correctly. Yeah. So I think a lot of things, I would say, like even on the fork of the trouser, years ago, again when I was at Sheppard, I remember one of the trouser makers there. He said to me, if you want to make it smaller through the leg, you hollow out the fork. So I kept on doing that. And then when I started on my own, I had a different cut trouser maker. He just undone the seam and he said, look, he wants to go there. You're never going to get that angle on the top, on the other side, unless you put it on the top side. But it's too much of an angle. If you want to reduce the fork and then clear away the seat, and that gives you a shorter distance between. I mean, it's just working it out for yourself, really, doing it time and time again, and you realise what works and what doesn't work. And then if you do what works more often, you're going to get a much better consistency of coat.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Okay, I've got 2 more. So, tailoring. Brilliant. And alterations.
Oh. I don't know what to say about that one. Alterations, we say adjustments, but alterations are a pain.
A pain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's do one more. Stephen Hitchcock.
Oh, craftsman.
Well, I definitely enjoyed this conversation, Stephen, and I'd like to thank you for making the time to do this with me.
Pleasure.
And that was Stephen. I hope you all enjoyed the conversation. If you'd like to see more of Stephen, you can follow the links to his Instagram and his website in the description of this video. I certainly enjoyed this conversation, and I look forward to see you again in the next episode. Until then, bye-bye.